This is NBK, nothing but Knicks. When Sim passed the assist, you know that it's #1 show that breaks down the game. If you can't play defense, stay out my way. Dribble the ball, come down the lane. 5 seconds on the shot clock, who gon' win us the game? You wanna hear Nick updates and trade rumors? Post-game reviews, this the place to tune in. So tell a friend just to keep the ball moving. Like the page if you feeling the movement. Every game we coming to win. Give us a sub like a player that came off the bench. This is NBK, nothing but Knicks.
Knicks family, what's poppin'? It's your boy. Ladies and gentlemen, the Knicks are going for 10 in a row tonight, right? Yeah, 10 in a row tonight, ladies and gentlemen, as they face the Charlotte Hornets in New York. One game before they go on a West Coast trip. Andy, what's poppin' with you, my brother? How you feeling?
What up, Sim? Happy to be on with you. I had a short break due to my schedules and to your lack of pre-games because of your championship, on which I congratulate you once
Appreciate
again.
it. Thank you. I appreciate it.
And Sim, I actually had three short topics I wanted to say in my introductions. One thing that I wasn't able to, tell you guys about Carmelo Anthony not being invited for the 73-year championship, the 50-year annual thing. Carmelo Anthony has become the FIBA ambassador of the basketball game around the world. So that's why he was currently in the Philippines when the event was happening. That's probably why he wasn't, in MSG. That's one. Second thing, I'm going to remind you guys again that I said if RG is going to take less shots, he's going to be looking way better, which he has done the last week or so. And the last thing, I'm going to look straight up in the camera. Emmanuel, quickly, you are growing on me. let's be let it go that way. I'm not gonna lie, when I saw that first shot versus the Celtics, when he just got the ball and took crazy three early in the shot clock, I was getting stressed already. I was cursing around the house, but he made it, and that game was pretty awesome. I'm gonna say that.
Yeah, it was. Emmanuel quickly is playing. He's definitely playing great basketball. I mean, for the last 25, 30 games, Andy, he's been the third best player on the Knicks. He really has.
I agree.
He really has. He's been the third best player. And his confidence is growing. He can play, he can start, he can come off the bench. He's closing games down the stretch. You know what I mean? He's become pivotal. He's become a pivotal player for the Knicks.
Yeah, and Sim, I think even from game one of the season till today, you see the maturation of his game. You see that the shot selection is a little bit different. He's gonna take those wild shots, but you can see that he thinks about him a little bit more before pulling for those sometimes not really good open shots, but since he's making them, how can you be mad at him?
Yeah, no doubt about it. Exactly. You can't be mad at him. I mean, before we get started into really getting into breaking down this game, Rich Jim asked, did we win the chip? Yeah, we won the chip, man. We won the Maryland Christian State tournament, and won the chip for the first time in the school's history. You know what I mean? And Marcus Miller said, "Congrats, welcome back to the pregame." I appreciate it. Took a lot of work, man. Took a lot of work. Had to spend a lot of time trying to get that thing done, but I'm proud of the fact that we were able to get it done. You know what I mean? It was an excruciating 3 weeks of basketball. We won the conference title, then we won the state title, and it was anxiety riddled. For the entire 3 weeks. You know what I mean? Just constant worry, and that game was a stressful game. Obviously, all basketball. If you coach basketball, if you play basketball, the games are going to be stressful. It was a stressful game. We got down 18-2 18-2, and had to chip our way back to finally take a lead with like a minute and 54 seconds left in the game. It was a battle, you know what I mean? But we pulled it out, state champs, and it's it was great to go out of the season on top. You know what I mean? It's great to go out of the season on top. Anyway, let's go ahead and break down this game. The Knicks take on the Charlotte Hornets tonight. They lead the season series 2-0, ladies and gentlemen. And this should be a game, in my opinion, this should be a must-win for the Knicks, right? Not a must-win. It should be a win for the Knicks. You know what I mean? It should be a win for the Knicks.
Yeah, listen, Sim, we beat way better teams, and I don't think that's that's not a knock on the Hornets. We really played the top Eastern Conference teams, a couple of good Western Conference teams on this 9-game win streak. The Hornets are the 14th team in the Eastern Conference. Last 10 games, if I'm correct, Steph put this number out yesterday on the show. They are fourth in the defensive ratings. That means
the Knicks are?
They are playing quite good defense lately.
Who's fourth?
The Hornets.
Hornets, okay.
Yeah, so they're playing way better defense nowadays. But listen, the Knicks are playing awesome basketball, and I don't think the Hornets are gonna stumble the Knicks run at this point.
Yeah, I don't think so either. I mean, at this point, the Hornets should probably be looking to lose every single game down the stretch of the season, right? At this point, that's probably what they're doing. You know what I mean? This should be a win for the Knicks. The players, though, they're going to battle. Players they're not going to tank per se. They're going to fight. They're going to battle. That's just in their DNA. The projected starting lineups for tonight for the Knicks, Jalen Brunson is questionable. I would expect that he's not going to play. I wouldn't play him tonight. I'd let him rest. See what it looks like when you get out on the West Coast. But I'd let him rest, playing the Hornets tonight. But Jalen Brunson is questionable. Of course, LaMelo Ball is out for the Charlotte Hornets. Cody Martin is out for the Charlotte Hornets. So what you see on your screen are the projected starting lineups for tonight. I think Jalen Brunson should sit. Your thoughts, Andy? Do you think? And Willie?
Yeah, I agree, Sim. And I think we just look at the standings and we see that the Hornets are quite, down there. And like you said, they're probably not trying to win that many games. But listen, some fans are gonna say like, listen, this might be the trap game. That the Knicks are just gonna be like, okay, this is the Hornets. We should win this game, easy game and stuff like that. We can sit this guy, that guy, and we still should pick up the W, right? Sometimes that might be a bigger cause of a problem than we think.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Then again, we are a too good oiled machine at this point, I think, Sim. I think it's going to take a really star-studded team, for example, like the Clippers, that could, try to stumble, the next one.
Yeah. Looking at the starting lineups for tonight, projected starting lineups quickly for the New York Knicks, as long as Jalen Brunson sits out. Quentin Grimes at shooting guard, R.J. Barrett at small forward, Randle at power forward, Mitchell Robinson at center. And for the Charlotte Hornets, Terry Rozier at point guard, Kelly Oubre at shooting guard, Gordon Hayward at small forward, P.J. Washington at power forward, and Williams at the center spot. Just looking at the matchups right here on the board, anything that you're concerned about, any player you really worry about with these two lineups?
Well, it's hard to say about the Hornets for me because I didn't watch many of these guys' game. From the overall skill, you would think that they have a wide variety of guys that can have that one game that can cause a problem for you. We saw Hayward, years back. He could score 30, even 30 couple of points a night. We definitely saw Rozier being a problem for in a couple of games. I'm not sure Oubre is he can stretch the floor and he can make a couple of threes a game, but I don't see the whole lineup as a whole team from the Hornets causing any problems for the Knicks.
Yeah, I agree. Terry Rozier, he's a guy that can give you 20. Gordon Hayward, he's had his way against R.J. Barrett, but I agree. I feel like the Knicks are, on such a roll. The chemistry is so high. They're so confident. I don't see anybody that's really going to give us trouble. Guys are going to score their average, right? But what scares me about that, when as I sit here and say that, is that's the definition of a trap game, right? And that's what
Exactly.
Manchild asks. Is this a trap game? That's the definition of a trap game. When you feel like, they don't have anybody that can really hurt you. The team is rolling. The Hornets aren't rolling. That's when you get caught. And hopefully the Knicks are able to, fight off that feeling. It's difficult when you've won 9 in a row. The Hornets haven't really been playing well, and you're looking at a team that's well below 500. You're well above 500. It's difficult, but that's the definition of a good team. That's what good teams do. They know that they got to play at a certain level, right? And if the Knicks are really trying to catch the Cleveland Cavaliers, well, they need to get this win, right? The Cleveland Cavaliers won last night. The Knicks, if the Cavs would have lost to Boston last night and the Knicks would have won tonight, the Knicks might have taken that 4th seed. But as it is, the Cavaliers won the game, so the Knicks got to keep pace. All right. Looking at the defensive matchups tonight, if Emmanuel quickly starts, if Jalen Brunson is out and Emmanuel quickly starts, I don't think you have to do anything special in the lineups. I think you go quickly against Rozier, Grimes against Kelly Oubre, R.J. Barrett against Gordon Hayward, Randle and Washington, and then Robinson and Williams. The only thing that I would think about is, do you want to put Grimes on Hayward and Barrett on Oubre? That's the only other thing I would think about, right? Because I've seen games where Gordon Hayward really did light up R.J. Barrett. There's been a couple of games where he lit him up. Your thoughts on the defensive matchups, Andy?
Totally agree, Sim. The only switch up that we could see is exactly the 2 and 3 matchup. Like you said, Hayward had his games versus RJ, but so did half of the league. Let's say it that way. but to be true, I think Hayward. I think RJ has a problem with guys that can go fast on the first step. I don't think Hayward at this point of his career, after so many injuries, is a threat for RJ. He's playing more of a slower, older man's game, and I think RJ can keep pace with Hayward. So I'm expecting that this might be the game where RJ is not gonna get fits from a guy like Gordon Hayward.
Yeah,
and it's exactly depending on if a guy is certainly hot, he's going to score versus anyone, right? So that's the only way. If Hayward is going to be shooting like 60% for the game, that might be the only problem for RJ.
Right. And the thing in the past with Gordon Hayward, specifically with him playing for the Hornets, is the way that they used him. Backdoor cuts, coming off ball screens, flashing to the basket. And RJ would have a hard time dealing with Hayward in that manner when they used him that way. I'm not exactly sure. I haven't watched a lot of Hornets games, so I'm not exactly sure how they're using him now with respect to what you just said. The way that his body is, and then just the way that the team is playing right now. I'm not sure. He's averaging 14.6 points per game, 4.3 rebounds, and 3.8 assists. We all know, we know he can get off and he can drop 30 on you. I don't know how long it's been since he's done that, but we know that he can do it. He's shooting 47% from the field, 32.6% from the 3-point line, 81% from the free throw line. I agree. He is playing 31 and a half minutes, but I agree with you. I think that I don't think he's going to be that kind of a threat this year or in this game against RJ, especially at this point in time with there being maybe a little bit more spotlight on RJ. You got guys like Josh Hart, Quentin Grimes, et cetera, who are really coming out there playing defense. I think RJ is aware and knows, like, I got to be on my game defensively, man. And he can only do what his physical limitations allow him to do or what his physical abilities allow him to do. But I think he gets it and understands it and knows that's the reason why he hasn't been playing as many minutes down the stretch and is really focused on being a better defender so that he can play down the stretch. You know what I'm saying? So I don't think you're going to see a Gordon Hayward explosion tonight. You know what I mean? If anybody gets off, it would be a Terry Rozier probably. But Emmanuel Quickly's playing really, really good defense nowadays. How do you see that matchup right there?
Well, Sim, I think that Rozier is one of the players that doesn't matter if you put the best defender on him. He can take exactly like Emmanuel Quickly. He can take bad shots and he can make them. He can, make your defense collapse because he has that game that he can use the screen. He can use the other players to kind of get his game off. And that's why he's more of a type of player that can go off other than just 1-for-1 playing, versus a guy like Quickly, because I think 1-for-1 Quickly can stay with him and stick with him.
Right.
I think he's going to use those screens, and there is a slight spot where a guy like Mitch Robinson can't stick with Rozier. A guy like, Julius Randle also can do it.
Right.
And that's where he probably is going to score most of his points.
Right. Terry Rozier is coming into tonight's game, averaging 21.3 points per game. He's not shooting the ball well, 41.2% from the field. He's shooting 33.3% from the three-point line. He gets to the line about 3.6 times per game, shooting 81.5%. So he's more of a volume shooter. He shoots 19 attempts a game, more of a volume shooter than an efficient shooter at this point. He's had some years where he shot the ball really well. This year is not one of them. All right. But, I'd expect Terry Rozier is going to get his 20, 21, 22 points. Although I think Emmanuel Quickly is going to do a good job defending him. And the only reason why I say Terry Rozier will get it is because I don't know who else is going to get the points if he's not getting it.
Yeah, that's the case with let's say bad teams. And what you look at at the best player as far as points per game goes, right? They're not going to be efficient, but then again, someone has to score on that team, right? They're not going to lose by 50, 60 points each game. So, like you said, it's going to be about the volume than about the efficiency. So.
Yeah. And then you got Kelly Oubre, who's averaging 20 points per game. Again, he's shooting 17 shots per game. He's only shooting 42.3% from the field, and he's shooting 31% from the three-point line. Kind of the same situation, right? Nobody else out there to take the shots. Nobody else out there that can, get to the cup that's going to score the ball. So you're looking at Kelly Oubre and Terry Rozier as those guys right now. Now, next year, this team could be very different. LaMelo Ball's able to make it back, and who knows what happens with Miles Bridges, but right now, this is the way that the team is constructed, and they're not very good. But they do have some guys that you have to be wary of. You got to pay attention to. Terry Rozier, Kelly Oubre, Gordon Hayward. You got to pay attention to those guys. PJ Washington. It's always a battle with Julius Randle, I guess. He always battles them, defends them, tough. But in my opinion, Julius Randle should, have another Julius Randle night. You know what I mean? Any thoughts on that matchup there?
I don't think there's, looking at Julius as being the player of the week, or it was month. I think it was week. I think it's
Yeah.
hard to it's hard to point out a player in the current NBA and the current Knicks schedule ahead that might cause problems for Julius. I know that the next game we're playing Sacramento and Sabonis is going to be there, and after that we're playing the Clippers where he can be guarded by Kawhi or PG 13. But I still think that he's such in a phase of a season that he thinks, and his confidence is so high that he's literally unbeatable. And if he's going to get beat, it's like he said about by himself. If he's not going to make shots, he's going to take worse shots and stuff like that. It's not like because someone is going to be able to guard him.
Yeah. Nah, I agree with you. Randle does have to guard PJ Washington though, right?
Yeah.
Washington's averaging 15 points a game, shoots it, decent percentage from the field, 44%, 35% from the 3-point line, and he does attempt about 6 of them a game. Randle's got to make sure he's on his game defensively, so that you don't let a guy like PJ Washington get really, really hot. Don't let him get really hot. But Randle should have his way, in my opinion. He should do what Randle does. Are you concerned? In the last game versus Boston, Randle had 7 turnovers. A lot of them came, well, obviously, Jalen Brunson isn't there to take control of the basketball. And you're seeing time and time again, Julius Randle get double-teamed and lose the ball. For the amount of time that that Jalen Brunson is out, are you worried about Julius Randle?
Well, there's definitely a certain level that I'm worried about in those cases where Brunson is out and Julius is basically the solo main guy of the team. Then again, we saw him reverting to a guy like Emmanuel Quickly in the in the Celtics game late in the game. He literally gave up the ball to Quickly the whole overtimes.
Mm-hmm.
And he took the back seat and he just wrote it out. So I think he's realizing that it doesn't have to be him on himself to get a W for the Knicks.
Right.
He can rely on his team. If it's Quickly, if it's Brunson, if it's RJ, if it's Grimes, even we saw the last stretch of games of the Knicks. I see that Randle is talking more with Grimes, trying to play more of a 2-man game with him. And I think, he's like being the big brother on the team for him more and more times. And I saw him, even if he made the back pass, he took the blame for it. If he didn't make the shot, he passed it, he passed the ball literally the next possession to the same situation and told Grimes to shoot. I think those are major things that most fans don't see and don't realize. But I think for Grimes' confidence going into the stretch down the season and going into the playoffs, that's a major boost for him. And I think Randle is doing it not only for his sake, but for the whole team's sake.
Yeah.
To get all these guys on a good mood, good vibe going into the playoffs.
Yeah. And I have noticed that Randle, a few times, seen him when he made a bad pass, tap his chest, to say my fault. And I've been waiting for Randle to do that because there's been so many times where he's made, made a bad pass, passed it too hard, or what just wasn't an accurate pass. When he throw his hands up in the air instead of pointing to himself. But you've seen it a little bit more lately that he point to himself, say my bad. You know what I mean? I threw it too low, threw it too high. Maybe I shouldn't have passed it. Or whatever it is. That's a good sign. That's a very, very good sign. And I agree. You know what I mean? The stretch of that game, the final, not the final 2 overtimes, the 2 overtimes, he gave it up to IQ, recognized that IQ was hot, and let IQ do his thing out there. Down the stretch of games, if Emmanuel Quickly is out there, do you prefer to have the ball in Emmanuel Quickly's hands to get the offense going down the stretch, or Julius Randle's?
Oh, you're testing me on my love to Emmanuel Quickly, right?
Yeah, I'm testing that love for Quickly. You said he's growing on you. How much is he growing on you?
Yeah, Sim, I'm not going to lie. He's growing on me, but last game versus the Celtics, he was really hot and he could get his way to the place on the court when he wanted to take the shot. You didn't see him force that many bad shots because he knew that he can penetrate. He can take that floater, take that, drive to the hoop, or take that three. So he was picking his shots, and he knew that he can do it. He was literally like, on that vibe that you really feel that you can do everything on that certain night. And I
Right.
think Julius realized that. And I'm not sure if that's going to be the case in every game, late in the game. But if that's the case, I think I'm cool with it. If Julius, is cool with it, and RJ is cool with it, I think, I have nothing to say as a fan.
Yeah.
If those guys feel that IQ is the guy this night, this possession, it has to go that way.
Yeah. See, I just get concerned about where, Tony and I were talking about it, where they post up Julius Randle to get the ball during those situations. They put him right in the middle of the foul line, and then he catches the ball and immediately turns his back to the defense, which
Yeah.
allows teams to double team.
And that, because that's like you said, that's a bad posting positioning, right?
Yeah.
Because it's easy to double there.
Right.
It's not like they clear a side and then they give him the ball on the side and everybody's on the other side. It's a mishmash with this whole offense. But then again, I'm happy about this. You know what? I'm happy about this Celtics win because the last couple of games we were winning and leading the game literally from wire to wire, right? I was happy that we finally had a game versus a worthy opponent that we went up, we went down, but we
Right.
recovered also.
Right.
It's not
Right.
like, the Knicks are going to panic if they go down 10.
Right.
Even versus the Hornets, that would be panic mode. But then again, they saw, listen, we were down with the Celtics. We can get back from this hole.
Right.
And I think that was really crucial. I was waiting for that game because last, like the first 6-7, 0 run, I was like, man, these guys look so good. I wonder if they're gonna panic, if there's gonna be a, like a -10 run or a -15 run, if Tibbs is gonna hold, some kind of a timeout and team meeting, and even on inside the game, after the game, whatever. If they're gonna crumble, right?
Right.
Because if it's going smooth, it's going smooth the whole way. But if you're gonna, they wouldn't be put in that certain situation, then you can fall on the guys like the Hornets and they go up like 15 to 3, 22 to 6, and then you're like, listen, we're down 15, 16.
Right.
What are we gonna do?
Right.
Who we're gonna revert to? Are we gonna, move the ball faster, or if we're going to slow down the game to, and that would be some kind of panic mode. But if they did it versus the Celtics, I think they can do it literally versus anyone in the league.
Anybody. Right. Yeah. No doubt about it. Looking at the benches for tonight, obviously, if Jalen Brunson starts, then IQ would not start. Then IQ would start. And on the bench, you'd be looking at Miles McBride, Josh Hart, Obi Toppin, and Isaiah Hartenstein. For the Charlotte Hornets, Dennis Smith Jr., McGowans, Nick Richards. In my opinion, the Knicks would still have the better bench, although the Charlotte Hornets bench versus the Knicks, and this is probably a much different bench at this point in time versus the Knicks. But versus the Knicks, the Charlotte Hornets bench has scored 41.5 points per game. The Knicks bench has scored 39.5 points. Hornets 41.5. That's over 2 basketball games. The Knicks have won both of those basketball games. But I would definitely give the edge to the Knicks bench. Although Dennis Smith Jr. is playing, he's been playing good basketball for the Charlotte Hornets, and maybe he's found a home there. But the Knicks bench shooting 54.7% versus the Hornets and 52% from 3 versus the Hornets. But the Hornets bench is shooting 54.9% from the field versus the Knicks and 47.1% from 3 versus the Knicks. Your thoughts on these two benches?
listen, we are playing in a 9-man rotation, which means even if we have the 4 guys from the bench, there's always going to be one starter with those guys.
Mhm.
So that number is maybe not misleading. That would be the wrong word, but I still think that you should add the production of that one player that's meshing with those guys, and that's mostly RJ Barrett,
Right.
because he comes out, as the first starter basically, and then starts the second quarter with the bench guys. And I think, that time we are using RG Barrett a little bit more on the offensive end, which means that his production is, a little bit bigger with that lineup. Looking at the Hornets bench, it's, we got Dennis Smith Jr., which we know. And, I think that McGowan's, kid, he played quite well versus the Knicks last game, if I remember correctly. He made a couple of big shots, that maybe not big shots, but some shots that I didn't expect him to make. But I still don't see that bench. Even if they score a couple of points better, I think then the Knicks starting lineup has an edge versus the Hornets starting lineup, and that's going to be the difference in the game
Yeah.
basically.
Last game, he had 10 points versus the Knicks. Theo Maledon had 8 points. Their bench wasn't crazy in the last game. It's really the first game, because the Knicks in the first game, the Knicks and Hornets, the game with the overtime, the Knicks won in overtime 134 to 131. Right, so this is where that bench might be skewed a little bit. Dennis Smith Jr. had 14. Jalen McDaniels had 17. Theo Maledon had 15. Nick Richards had 7. James Bouknight had 13 versus the Knicks. And that was, I'm sorry, Dennis Smith Jr. started. So Jalen McDaniels had 17. Theo Maledon had 15. James Bouknight had 13. Nick Richards had 7. Right, so, they dropped some real buckets in that first game versus the Knicks. You know what I mean? I mean, you're talking 50 whatever points in that first game versus the Knicks off the bench. McGowan's in that game he only played 39 seconds, but in the second game, McGowan had 10 points versus the Knicks. Yeah, but now, James Bouknight shouldn't be playing tonight. Theo Maledon, I believe, is out for the night. Let me just check and make sure. Yeah, Theo Maledon is not playing. He's on G League assignment. We'll see if Jalen McDaniels, or is Jalen McDaniels no longer with Charlotte?
I'm not sure, because I know that I always mess up these guys with the one from the T Wolves. I don't recognize the difference between this is Jalen and Jaden, and I'm always confused which one is which.
Jalen is
So,
now with the 76ers.
yeah,
Right, he got
I was
traded to
thinking
the
so.
76ers at the trade deadline. So their bench is significantly weaker. Now, you know what I mean? Significantly weaker. And they've got Svi McCulloch over there now in Charlotte too. I think he played like 9 minutes the last game. Now, Charlotte was getting blown out. They got dusted off. We'll see if if the Knicks dust him off, he'll probably play tonight. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
This isn't the first. Let me check. This isn't the first game that the Knicks and Charlotte have played in New York, is it?
I think we played one here and one there. So
Did we? Okay.
yeah, I think so.
Okay. Yeah. I expect the Knicks bench to play well. Josh Hart on the bench. Obi, is starting to get a little bit more comfortable. As well, not starting. He's been back for a while. He's been playing better. You know what I mean? So I expect the Knicks bench to do what they do and win this matchup. I mean, when you look at the two teams, the Knicks, of course, are leading this series 2-0. All right, the Knicks are averaging 127.5 points versus the Hornets. The Hornets are averaging 116.5. Again, in the first game of the series, October the 26th, the game went into overtime. The Knicks won it 134 to 131. In the second game, the Knicks held the Hornets to 102 points in that second game. Right, it's 121 to 102. The Knicks are shooting 48.9% versus the Hornets. They're shooting 37.5% from three. The Hornets, they're shooting 47% versus the Knicks from the field and 33% from the three-point line. Both teams, the Knicks 15 turnovers, the Hornets 14 turnovers per game. 25.5 assists versus the Hornets from the Knicks and 23.5 versus the Knicks from the Hornets in this game here. I expect that the Knicks will, I think these numbers are going to be similar. I don't know if they'll score 127 points, but, the shooting percentages, turnovers, the assists, I think it's going to be similar. Unless the Hornets defense is as good as, is really that good now. If it's really that good now, maybe it's different. But I expect it's going to be much of the same. Right? The Knicks should win this basketball game, in my opinion. They should get it.
Yeah, I think so too. And Sim, I'm just wondering if there's any word spread in the Knicks locker room that the 73-year team, the championship team, they had an 8-game winning streak, and the second winning streak that they have, it was 11. So this would be game number 10.
This would be game number 10 if they get this.
So that I think the pressure is going to be on if they win this game. The biggest pressure is going to be on the Kings game. So they will want to repeat at least these numbers, versus maybe not versus, just as the championship team, right?
Yeah.
So
if the Knicks can get this win, this will be, if the Knicks win 10 in a row, it'll be their longest winning streak since 1969. In 1969, they had a 10-game winning streak.
Yeah.
Yep, they beat the Bulls 102 to 101. Also in 1969, they had an 11-game winning streak. In 1973, they had an 11-game winning streak. Let me see. The Knicks' longest winning streak ever is an 18-game winning streak. That was in 1970. All right, the streak got broke versus the Detroit Pistons 110 to 98. Next, in 1994, they had a 15-game winning streak. In 2013, they had a 13-game winning streak. They lost 118 to 111 to the Chicago Bulls. In 93-94, they also had a 12-game winning streak. Right, so the Knicks, this year's Knicks are close. If they can win tonight, they'll be on a 10-game winning streak, of which they'll tie the 1969 team. And they lost. The Knicks lost to the Bulls 102-101. That was when the streak was broken, 1969. But they'll tie that 1969 team. Then they can beat who is it? The Clippers they play next, or the Kings?
The Kings and then the
Kings.
Clippers.
Right. If they can beat the Kings, then they can tie that 1973 team who had an 11-game winning streak. So let's see what we can do. See if we can get there, ladies and gentlemen. Let's see if we can get there. Maybe I should have never put it out there in the air. You know what I mean? Maybe should have never put it out there in the air. There's been a bunch of Knicks teams who've had a 9-game win streak. Right now, the Knicks are currently on a 9-game win streak. In 2021, the Knicks had a 9-game win streak. 2012, 2013, they had a 9-game win streak. 93, 90, and in 1970, they had a 9-game win streak. So, let's see what we can do. See if we can break some more records this year. You know what I mean? See if we can break some more records. I don't know. And anything else you want to bring up, though, just about the Knicks in general?
Yes, because I saw Josh, Uncle Fulio, been spreading the word on Twitter. If it's important for the Knicks, this current Knicks team, to get the 50-win mark this season, and or get the 4th seed, is that more important than anything else currently? Is that like the goal for the season? What do you think about that?
I don't know if it's the goal. I don't know if the Knicks actually came into the season setting goals, right? But I would still take, the Knicks winning 50 games um, as another building block, right? Another stepping stone. Even if they, had a hard time in the playoffs, I would look at it as a building block. Okay, you know what? You got the 50 wins. You know what I'm saying? So you've proven that you can be a good team. And even if you lose in the playoffs, how can you build upon this? And what do you need to do to perform in the playoffs? You know what I mean? It's always steps that your team, they got to take steps. You know what I mean? They got to take steps. And you can't, if they crapped out in the playoffs, you can't throw out what they accomplished in the regular season. You know what I'm saying? You got to build on what they accomplished. You know what I mean? So, you got to build on it and say, okay, all right, we know we can win 50 games, but how do we win games in the playoffs? What is it that we need? You know what I mean? So I think you got to look at it in steps that way.
So, Sim, let me do a follow-up question. Do you think the 4th seed versus the Cavs, let's say, because I think it's going to be versus the Cavs as currently set up, do you think how important is that for the Knicks to be, seated in the 4th seed versus the Cavs?
I don't know how important it is for the Knicks because the Knicks have been a good road team all season, right? So they've been able to win on the road, and now they're winning at home. So I don't know if it's a series breaker for the Knicks. I think they can win in either arena, to be honest with you.
Yeah, and I agree, and that's why I said no. That's why I answered to Josh that for me that 50, the 15 win mark is not a goal. It's not even a goal for me, and quite to be sure, I rather stick in the 5th seed than even go to the 4th seed, and I'm going to tell you why. Because I think being in the 4th seed is going to bring more pressure because you're going to be in that position that you're supposed to win versus the Cavs. You're going to be highest seeded versus, as far as the regular season goes. I rather be in the underdog situation that brings less pressure. And I think the Knicks current young squad is going to be playing way better if they're going to be motivated by beating a team that's higher than them and stuff like that. I think that's way more important, and I'd rather beat the Cavs from the 5th seed than being in the 4th seed and okay, they won from the 4th seed because they had to win it. They were higher ranked and stuff like that. If we beat them from the 5th seed, that means we have to win at least one game on the road. And I think it's like you said. I don't think for the Knicks, for this roster, it's a problem to win the road. That's not the case for this team. We saw them playing early in the season better on the road than in MSG. Right. Currently, I think it's like even. Mm-hmm. So they don't, it doesn't matter for them. Of course, they're going to say that they would rather win in MSG than in Cleveland. But I think they're going to take every win possible. And it's not like they're going to tank to be the 5th seed, but I'd rather see them being seeded at the end of the season on the 5th seed and beat the Cavs from, as the 4th seed.
Okay. All right. We'll see what they do. I would love for them to beat the Cavs either way. The only thing is, my only kickback is the accomplishment of battling down the season to get the 4th seed. I think also boosts their confidence. You know what I'm saying? If they're able to, fight, battle, get the 4th seed, it's like, okay, another, we accomplished something else. You know what I'm saying? Now let's go accomplish this next thing. I understand what you're saying though. You know what I mean? So I can see it both ways where you can look at it and say, all right, we got this accomplishment. Now let's do this. Now let's do that.
Yeah, and Sim, I'm just gonna go back at you about the 4th seed. I think it's gonna be harder for them to perform next season if they're going to be set, seated the 4th seed. This is going to be like this. The next step is the 3 or higher, right?
But I think even if they're the 5th seed, which they currently are, I think it's still
It's still going to be.
people still
That's
going to
true.
say, all right, it was 5th seed, you got to take a step forward now. You know what I mean? I think it's still going to be
And
there.
and on this note, I think, listen, this current rotation squad, next season we are 100% coming back with this roster.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So these guys that get this result for this season, they know that they're sticking with this roster. They're gonna have an upgrade because we can trade Fournier, we can move D Rose and some of the guys that are out of the rotation. They're gonna have a boost in quality or minutes sharing, whatever,
Yeah.
and then they can make that step
Yeah.
to the 4th, 3rd, and higher, or even as far as the playoffs go, right? So I think, this is, like you said, it's going to be a building block, but it's going to be a building block for this certain roster. It's not like, okay, this is a building block for the franchise. Now we got to make moves to get better. Not these guys are making the first step, and these guys are going to be allowed to make the second step.
Yeah.
That's why I think this is really important for not only the franchise, but also these personal players on this roster.
I agree because you can look at it and know that this group is coming back.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You're not going to come into the season with as many questions next year.
Yeah.
Right? This year there were all kinds of questions. Last year when they brought in Kemba and Fournier, there were all kinds of questions. Those questions won't be there this year. Next year, right? They'll come into the season next year with whatever happens with the playoffs. They'll come in with so many of those questions already answered. And the way that they'll start the season, I think, is going to be different. I mean, there's going to be an expectation to take a step.
Yeah. And Sim, listen, we see that these guys have the chemistry together with each other. And that's going to be only stronger next season because every other team is going to make moves because, there's going to be only one championship team. The rest of these rosters have to make moves to try to catch that championship team, right? Meanwhile, the Knicks, I think, even a year longer with these same guys and moving the guys that are not playing, that's going to be already a step. Right. And the chemistry is going to be a second step. So I think, next season, I think you might see me, in MSG in one of these games because I'm going to believe in this Knicks that big.
There we go. Silk Sutton said, "Hey, Sim, did you see Pinson and Bullock their time with the Knicks?" Theo said, the playoffs at MSG had his heart racing. I'm pretty sure it's going to be like that for a lot of players, right?
Yeah, and I said, I'm just going to add, I saw that interview and I loved how Theo Pinson was saying, "Oh, we as the Knicks." I realized that he was on the roster, but he didn't get any playing time. So I don't know why he was like using "we" as so big word in those interviews.
Right.
With
just imagine if his heart was racing, but everybody else's heart was doing. But I think this year, that's another thing that some of these guys. Jalen Brunson's been in some big playoff games. Now Julius Randle and R.J. Barrett, they at least have a playoff series under their belt as a Knick and playing in Madison Square Garden. You know what I'm saying? Mitchell Robinson as well. Emmanuel Quickly, Obi Toppin, they at least have the experience. So they're still going to be nervous, but they can be a little bit more relaxed when playoff time comes. And Andy, if you do come to New York, watch out, man, because I think CP the artist is hitting on you. He said Andy got the best blue eyes. He might be hitting on you. Watch out.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I know CP, bro. Salute, bro.
But ladies and gentlemen, we're gonna head up out of here. The Knicks take on the Hornets tonight at 7:30 at Madison Square Garden, and then they go on a 4-game road trip, West Coast swing. All right, so they need to get this win tonight, see if they can make it 10 games in a row, and take it from there, folks. It's still a big one because the Knicks are trying to keep pace with the Cleveland Cavaliers. So it's still a big game, although the Knicks are 12 games above 500. It's very nice to have that kind of breathing room now. Really nice. The Knicks are 2 games away from securing being a 500 ball club for the season. 2 games away from that. They can take care of one of them tonight. Any last words, Andy?
Like I said in the beginning, happy to be on with you again. I hope my guest Daniel Hornets that's all in New York currently. I think he's going to be coming back soon, so I'm going to have that final interview with him.
Okay.
And him talking about his trip to New York. He had a couple of minutes to spend with Isaiah Hartenstein. He had his jersey signed. He had an interview with MSG Network. So we're going to have tons of information, how that thing worked out for him.
Yeah, no doubt. And later on tonight, after the game, after the post-game show, I think Tony Crow is going to host another Losers Lounge. So if the Charlotte Hornets lose to the Knicks, it'll be a Charlotte Hornets Losers Lounge. If the Knicks lose, well, then it'll be a Knicks Losers Lounge, I guess. But it's going to host another Losers Lounge. It was a hit last time. We're going to keep that show going. Tony's going to keep it going, and it's going to get better and better. But make sure you join us on the post-game show tonight, about 10:30 p.m. And ladies and gentlemen, we're out of here. Peace.
This is MBK, nothing but Knicks. When Sim passed the assist, you know that it's #1 show that breaks down the game. If you can't play defense, stay out my way. Dribble the ball, come down the lane. 5 seconds on the shot clock, who gon' win us the game? You wanna hear Nick updates and trade rumors? Post-game reviews, this the place you tune in. So tell a friend just to keep the ball moving. Like the page if you feeling the movement. Every game we coming to win. Give us a sub like a player that came off the bench. This is NBK.